Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. Today, I am thrilled to welcome someone who has spent 25 years in the rooms where organizations' futures are decided. Nancy May is CEO of BoardBench Companies, a corporate governance advisory firm that helps organizations build and optimize their boards. She is recognized by Forbes as one of America's top governance experts, and she has advised boards at global 100 companies around the world. She's been in the room for the hard conversations, the strategic pivots, the debates, the moments that really define whether a company is going to be stalling or thriving. She began her career in emerging technologies and worked with brands during the digital revolution, brands across the world, including Burger King, Citibank, Ford Motors, and she understands disruption. And she also understands and has seen what happens when boards get it right and when they miss the moment entirely. Nancy is also an award winning podcast host. She is a passionate advocate for diversity and governance excellence. And Nancy and I met at a course called Board Readiness Masterclass that NetworkWise put on. NetworkWise is founded by Adam Connors and John D. Giambattista. And it was a wonderful course, value packed. Nancy was leading it, and I was coaching the participants who were there for that day. And I knew from that day that we would continue talking, and I knew that I wanted to bring this conversation to you. So I am thrilled to have Nancy with us. Nancy, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you once again.
Once again, absolutely. We had a feeling this would happen.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I guess if we start on the personal front,
Mhm.
when I met you, you own the room, but you struck me as no BS, knows her stuff, owns the room, authority. Those were the associations. If we played a word association game, those were the words I would have associated with you. And what I'm curious about is when people first meet you, what is something that surprises them to know about you?
Oh, I'm a pretty open book. If somebody asks a question, I'll say it as I see it. But you know, not in a and say some people can be mean that way, right? So not in a rude, harsh way, but I will be very direct with somebody to give them the unvarnished truth is what they need to hear if it's a conversation or consultation. And I would say I'm always interested in looking behind the wall, what's there, what you see up front, but what are hidden in the corners that we might not necessarily even be considering or looking at.
Hmm. Well, I love that, the clarity, because clear is kind. It might not feel great to hear it, but it is what's of service. It's not talking around something, it's delivering value and directness.
In a way that's hopefully empathetic at the same time, although my husband says I am not an empathetic person, so
It depends on the context.
home versus, whatever.
Sure. Depends on the situation. So
Yeah, right.
I'm wondering in your professional path,
Mhm.
where you started during the digital revolution, what drew you from the world of emerging tech, consumer brands, and into the work of boardrooms and governance?
Oh, that's actually a pretty easy question. It was sort of the early days of women on boards, and corporations were looking at that. And I really wasn't even looking at working in the boardroom, but I was working with a CEO who said, "You think a little differently, and I don't know how to do that. Maybe you could help me in my boardroom." And I thought, sure. So as opposed to most people today who says, "I'm going to," from a consulting perspective, "I'm gonna work with the board, that's where things are." I got dragged into it. So and I never looked back. It was fascinating, it was interesting, and to see the personal and professional vulnerabilities at that level is And maybe it's not that level. It's in that environment is really kind of eye-opening.
Hmm. What opened your eyes the most? What surprised you when you started to work to do this work?
I would say in many cases there are great experts, but there's also a lot of professional naivete
Hmm.
that happens. Um, you know, example is, you know, especially when you're looking at selecting another peer to be on the board with you, what you see is not always the reality of the individuals that you're bringing on. And it's very easy for a board member, as well as any one of us, to be, I'll say, sucked in by charisma, as opposed to really understanding what's happening, like we started in the beginning, what's happening behind the scenes or years back that you didn't necessarily know and could potentially be a vulnerability for you or the company or the board or the CEO later
Hmm.
on.
So
Yep.
the shininess, people would be distracted by the
Oh,
charisma,
shiny.
the
Yeah, very
presence,
much.
the shininess. That's the peacock in my framework. It's the razzle and dazzle, which you need. It's great. And what's behind the feathers when you
Yep.
pull them back? What's
Mhm,
happening over there?
mhm.
That's
Yep.
I love it. But it's interesting when I think a lot of times for years the the through line, the connection from boardroom decisions to what actually happens on the ground in organizations isn't clear for most people, right?
Mhm.
It's behind closed doors. There isn't that visibility, and I'm wondering what is a pattern that you see in boardrooms that shows up in company culture? What might be the correlation?
It all relates around a CEO, right? So, fortunate or not, a boards in many cases do not look at how to get bluntly put, how to get rid of a CEO when that individual becomes the wrong choice for the position at the time. They wait too long, and
Hmm.
for a variety of reasons. It could be that they didn't necessarily have a succession plan. That could be that they don't want to be vulnerable from the outside, bad timing. It could be they don't want to admit that they've made a mistake, they've selected the wrong person, so they're just going to stick it out. And when things are rocky in a company, the last thing a board wants to do is make changes because it hurts.
It
Bringing on
hurts.
a new board member, firing a CEO, changing things out, you don't do it.
The waves
And
are created. Hmm.
yep, and when you've got a bad leader, I wouldn't even say a bad leader. It could be just a weak leader.
Hmm.
That they say things rot from the top, but things also rot from the bottom up. So it's yeah, things get a little mushy in between, and good people leave when they lose respect for the top.
And it's
I
an
did it. I did it early
incredible.
in my career.
You did.
Yeah.
Yes. And how many do, right? And what's interesting about and this insight is when you think about folks quitting because they see either toxicity or
Mhm,
incompetence or just not the right match for this, not the right role for the
mhm.
organization. And the folks who tend to leave tend to be the ones that have the optionality to leave. And
Oh, I'm gonna stop you there because we all
please,
have the option to leave.
yes, true.
Every single one
Say
of us has
more.
an option to leave. If you are constantly in motion, may be the wrong word, but constantly expanding the relationships and trust that you have outside of your day-to-day job. Too many
Mm-hmm.
people, this is a networking, this goes to Adam and Job. This is a networking thing.
Yes.
One of my beefs that I learned early on, I learned it from my dad, who was a business owner, and I sort of followed suit. But too often, the employee at any level will manage their relationships up and down the ladder, CEOs included. And the relationships only help you when you're there.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right.
And CEOs don't understand. This is at a CEO, we're talking CEO level now.
Yes.
When a CEO manages a relationship with their board, you need that. That's important. When they don't manage the relationships on the outside, especially when they no longer have access to the corporate checkbook,
Mm-hmm.
they become targets and vulnerable on the outside. And
Absolutely.
egos fall and crash,
Mm-hmm.
and it becomes difficult for many people to understand what their next course of option is until maybe a recruiter comes by or somebody says you're great and wonderful again, and all of a sudden, poof, I'm great and
That's right.
wonderful again.
You're great and wonderful again. That's right.
The great and wonderful
That's
Oz.
right. Well, that's the optionality.
Mhm.
Precisely. It's you're really putting horse blinders on and reducing optionality when you isolate yourself and live in this vacuum
Yep.
of the immediate day-to-day necessity. And it's great for the soul, great for humanity, great to develop meaningful, genuine relationships with human beings. And in a time of change, tremendous change, more change,
Critical, absolutely
it's
critical.
it's critical. And how do you do without it? And so that's interesting. The pattern that you see is what I'm hearing is CEO choice, once that choice is deemed to be not ideal,
Fear of change.
fear of change.
Fear of change. Fear of change
Mm-hmm.
is probably the bigger umbrella, right
Oh,
across the
yes,
board. Same thing goes with
absolutely.
outside activists and attacks and whatever strategic changes and shifts in economies and markets. It's people, we're not good at change, period. And
We're,
if you become comfortable, and I say as comfortable as possible, when change becomes an opportunity as opposed to a fear, then you start having power over yourself and opportunities and situations.
I love that. And it's creating the opening to
Mhm.
see the opportunities as they appear, to be open to have the vision to see them and perceive them as such, as
And have the
opposed to,
conversation, constantly have that
yes,
conversation. Keep talking to others
yes,
and ask questions and just shut up.
get curious and close your mouth.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's important, right? It's that's right. I love that. I'm thinking of an old proverb about, I think, owls or ears. Why we have two ears and one mouth. We're supposed to listen twice as much as we speak. When we are thinking about all the changes that we're talking about that are
Mhm.
happening in the market, on the global stage, layoffs, restructuring, pivots, CEO changes,
Mhm.
what are the early warning signs that folks that are not in the room might be on the lookout for, that those changes are coming?
Oh, watch the attitudes and behaviors of people at the top. If it's in the boardroom, again, the board will have influence of the CEO and senior management. There'll be, I would say, people will tend to be a little bit more quiet and vested about things. But if there are major changes that are gonna go on and you are aware, you open up those blinders, mm, keeping your ear to the ground, you're gonna see it well before it actually happens. You're gonna get that vibe, you're gonna get that feeling of discomfort. You're gonna know pretty much that something's in the wind.
Mm,
You may not know what, but just constantly be aware of your surroundings. Last night, it was interesting. I was at down in Tampa at a USF a board meeting, advisory board meeting that I've been asked to participate in for the Department of Economics, and it was at a large consulting company. And when I walked in, I was there early. I always try to get there early because you get a sense of the lay of the land. You see things when nobody else is there. It's very interesting to watch the environments and people behaving. And everybody's in their little glass cubicles. Glass walls are important today, right? Everybody's got to see what's going on. Nobody's talking to one another. Everything is gray. They're all just like honed in to what's in front of their screens. But nobody was aware of what their environment was, which to me is a risk.
It sounds like they're in survival mode.
They may be. I was only there for 3 hours, so and then they closed the door so I can see what's going on. But it was interesting to see that nobody there even had their blinders on, or they all had their blinders on, except even when I couldn't get in the front door, glass door. There's a big conference room, a bunch of people meeting, trying to get in. I didn't look like a vagrant. I can promise that. And they just all turned their head, and nobody got up to see if they could open the door.
Mm.
The chair of this group said, "Did you have that experience?" I said, "I sure did." What does it tell you about the culture of that organization?
That's right.
Right?
That's one way, right? That's one of
Yeah.
the telltale signs. To folks, there's a long translation path between where the conversations happen and the trickle down effect of what it might feel like from CEO to C-suite to the senior, like SVP tranche, VP, SVP tranche of behavioral changes that are
Mhm.
indicators that something big is about to happen and we're about to experience
Yeah.
significant change.
Oh, you'll see it. You'll feel the discomfort in people. They'll either hide or
Mhm.
you'll just see a little agita. It's hard to explain sometimes, but if you are in tune to your surroundings, you'll see it. You'll see it.
It's interesting you're talking about being in tune. We're talking about being sort of attuned and aware.
Mhm.
A lot of so far, what we're talking about is an awareness of the world around us, what's happening within us and what's happening around us. And, like seeing that you were at the door. Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
there's a human being standing looking to get in. And, oh, hold on. I know in my personal experiences in the past, those changes, some of the indicators were a shift in either tone from the C-suite or a little bit more retrieval, right?
mhm.
A little bit more inward, a little bit less outward facing, a little bit less communicative as time approaches, the announcement, whatever that announcement is.
Even just in understanding the environment physically outside of the company. So I'll give you an example from a very early time in my career. Now, this is the time when they still had payphones, right? And I was working in the city at a large corporation, and I would go out at lunch. And you're walking Midtown Manhattan on a beautiful day. Who can resist, right? So you get some fresh air as opposed to being in the office. And instead of going back to the office after I had grabbed some soup or something and had some lunch outside, I went to the ladies' room at the Grand Central Hyatt, which is around the corner from where I worked. And there was a block of payphones between the men's room and the ladies' room. It used to be there. Our CEO was on the phone.
Hmm.
Why? Right? Kind of strange. So
Unexpected behaviors, right?
unexpected behaviors. And of course, I went to the next payphone. He didn't know who I was. I went to the next payphone to pretending that I was like on the phone to
To
see if
to
I could hear what was going on. But there
to
was
listen
something
in.
going, whatever it was, there was something
Hmm.
going on. And sure enough, there was a takeover that was happening at the time. Some
This is
legal issues.
before the soundproof booths that most offices now have.
The cone of silence.
That's
But
right.
even still, it was fascinating that he couldn't have that conversation with somebody inside in a private office as opposed to
Mhm.
going outside in a public phone, not even knowing who might be there.
That's right. And
A
most didn't
junior
notice.
employee.
It happened
Guess
to
what?
be this one person who noticed, and that was you.
Voila. Right
And
time,
most
right place.
most wouldn't know.
Mhm.
So it sounds, I think folks observe maybe, meetings with new groups of folks that are new, right? You don't recognize them, and all of a sudden there are meetings.
What
Uh,
happens when doors closed more often than not? even if there is glass walls, what's happening behind those walls,
Mhm.
and just keeping attuned to it. But you always have an option.
Absolutely. Well, and seeing the signals and connecting the dots,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
or even having an awareness that there might be dots to connect, that there are
Right.
data points,
Hmm.
that something is a data point, that a change in
Yeah.
behavior is a data point. And when that pattern starts to be recognized by the employees, anxiety sets in,
Yep.
right? And the fear mode amps up. And, well, how do I keep myself safe? What's happening? There's uncertainty. And then
Yeah. I don't
quite a
think boards are
few
attuned to that as much as they should be.
mm, about the impact on, if we're talking about just cold hard efficiency, what are
Hmm.
you getting out of people when they're living in the uncertainty
Hmm.
and they see that something's happening and they don't know the impact?
Right.
Um, and the ones who may have, for whom it might not be their first rodeo, sometimes folks are told the messaging might include, well, we're okay, nothing's going to change, just keep your head down and don't do anything differently, right?
How many times have you heard that and
How much
believe that story?
Well, the first time I heard that story, I did believe it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know better, so I thought, okay, that makes sense. But once it's not your first rodeo anymore and you see it, like, okay, this is code for it's about to go down.
Yeah.
Something's about to go down. When we're thinking about when leaders join companies with boards
Mhm.
and they're looking at who is on that board, how might they read the composition of the board, who's on it, what might they want to pay attention to understand the direction of where their company's headed?
Oh God, yeah, that's a tough one because a board composition does not necessarily show you the direction of the company. You have to understand that the board's customer are the investors. The CEO's customer is the board and the company's customers. And yes, indirectly, and ultimately the investors as well. But the makeup of the board is supposed to reflect the direction of where the company should go or where it needs to be go. That's part of it. But boards don't change out that fast.
Hmm.
It's a rare situation where a board member is asked to leave in advance for some reason that they've done wrong fit, wrong decision to bring that individual on. They just don't cut them fast. And when you see a board that is too old, it's been there too long, board members fall asleep. You wouldn't necessarily see that, but they do fall asleep. And the actual question engagement of the board in being able to walk around and seeing what's happening in the company. If they're interested and they're curious and they ask questions within, I would say, permission is the wrong word, but it's a word I'm going to use right now, of the CEO, not to go around the CEO, but to be an active support to the company without being a consultant, because a board is not a consultant. Board member is not a consultant. Their job is to see over the hills and see where the problems might be and hopefully get the management team to make sure that the ship is heading in the right direction,
Mhm.
or can pivot quickly if need be. But just being able to walk into a plant and see what's happening and have a discussion comfortably within another employee is a good sign. So, and yeah, having the expertise, again, I put in quotes, that is broad and deep, that's there, and ethics and morals. I mean, if you, it's pretty easy to see anybody's background and what they've done. What you don't get is what I call the dirty little secrets on the
Mhm.
individuals in public environments, unless they've done something egregious. Um,
Right. Enron and such.
yeah, yeah.
Unless you do that. So then there are some data points again. So for someone coming in outside who has not had a chance to get to know any of the dirty little secrets of the folks on the board and understand their personality and ethics, decision-making process. They see what's publicly available.
Mhm.
Maybe they'll connect and say, okay, like to your point, okay, everyone is 80 plus years old, for example. Okay, that's something, we're noticing patterns. Or everyone on the board has extensive experience in X industry.
Or
Or
they're on 20 million boards themselves. So
or they're on
they're not on only max 3.
mm,
Because
max
their
three.
time and it they're yeah, I would say max 3. Because time and attention, if you are a full-time board member, time and attention can only be placed
Mhm.
well in a certain, amount of places.
And so if you're talking to that person, the employee, the leader, who is not seeing the behind the scenes, and they're looking at the board composition, and they discover that, oh, 3/4 of this board is on the board of way too many companies.
Mhm.
7 here and 5 there and 10 there. What is happening?
And
What
when
might
there's something called interlocking directors, when,
mm,
one board member is on or several board members are on multiple boards together, it's a club.
it is a club. It is a club. So it's something that it, it can be researched. It's not
It's pretty easy
straight
to do. Yeah,
it's not straightforward, but it's possible to do, to
very easy
understand
to do.
where are the
Yeah.
connection points.
Mhm.
Did they work together? What have they done? And then that informs potentially the pressures, for example, of the CEO. What might it inform? How much attention the company's getting
I
from
would say, biases that might possibly happen,
mm,
mistakes that have happened in other companies that maybe were not addressed. If there's 2 or 3 board members that are on the same board, multiple boards together, what happened in that particular case, where they might be blindsided in your particular company, how well they're guiding and supporting the CEO. If the CEO is also chairman of the board, I have a, personally, I think professionally, I think that's a problem because the CEO should report to the board. It cannot be, it's difficult to be president of yourself.
a bit of a
So, in that case, be an entrepreneur without a board.
cold hard advice. I love it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's the pattern recognition and the emotions involved in making decisions and understanding what gets in our way is what really stands out in what you're talking about. As we're from go ahead.
There's 'cause it was the Godfather who said there was a question as to whether decisions were just business. It's not personal. And he
Mm.
said, it's all personal. So understand that decisions at the top, although they may appear to be very analytic, and there's often an underlying personal thread that may go through things.
And what's so fascinating about what you just said is at the top there's factors that
Mhm,
the rest of the folks, the ripple effect of every single decision, of every point of contention that happens behind the scenes, the
mhm.
ripple effect on thousands and thousands of people who are
It's huge.
not
It's huge. Yeah.
who are not the investor, who are not on the
Mhm,
board, who are not the CEO, the
mhm.
people that actually make the company go every day,
Yeah.
who make everything happen. The impact on them is unbelievable and it's tremendous. And I wonder how often it becomes a priority, how often it gets discussed in the room.
Oh, the impact on the employees is a
Yes.
priority? Ideally, I'd like to say that there is that discussion. I don't think I'm like 90% sure, 99% sure that it's not happening as often as it should. And, the morale and culture of a corporation is so critical to moving things forward, including when everybody's comfortable and working together. You need to keep a little bit of maybe angst, people on the edge a little bit, because comfort also doesn't produce a
Mm,
great environment either.
mm.
We
Well,
get lazy
comfort
when we're comfortable.
That's
We
right.
want to sit on the couch. We want to watch our TV shows. We don't want to work. We don't want to push the envelope. We don't want to challenge the conventional thinking.
Mm. Comfort can lead to complacency, and then
Oh yeah. I mean,
yeah.
look what's happened with fraud over the years. I mean, if you go back to the days of Enron, right? Board members that I had spoken to after the fact, were like, well, we didn't know what was going on. Well, it's your fault that you didn't know what was going on. And I had actually been asked to speak on a panel, well, at an event, a private event with Andy Fastow, who was the CFO of Enron. And the interesting, I came home and said, should I do this? And I was looking for some outside opinion, right? Well, my family said, absolutely not. Don't do it. It's wrong. You're going to get labeled. And I'm not so sure. I spoke to a friend who's a general counsel who said, don't do it. Don't do it. It's dangerous. So I went, and this was like one of his first exposures and speaking outside of the realm of the Enron world and his incarceration. And so I spoke to a general counsel friend of mine and said, what do you think? He said, no, 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 bad, bad, bad. Don't do it. Danger, danger, warning, like warning, Will Robinson, don't do it. Right. And so I went to the organizer of this small event, private event, and I said, well, I'm not going to say no, but what if I brought my general counsel along with me? And he said, oh, that would be really cool. So I called this GC and I said, well, what if you join me on the discussion? I'm there. So I had to laugh. To laugh. But the interesting thing was in the research, this sort of goes back to boards in what you hear on the ground. I went back and read all the government reports on this and called a number of people that had been clients, big clients at top levels that I knew, and said, so why on earth did you keep this company and this man as a customer? And they all said, because it's about the money. We knew he was doing wrong things. We knew bad things were going on, but they brought in revenue for our corporation. So, yes, it's about the money. Yes, it's about the analytics, but it was a personal and emotional decision to keep the client. End of story.
Comes back to personal and emotional.
It
The
still
data,
happens.
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's human nature. The data you can fix. Also, the data is malleable. A lot of times, leaders that I work with pride themselves on, like the executives, well, we have data. We have the data and we have the reports, right? So they, some beautiful glossy reports end up on their desks, and
Yeah.
decisions are made based on those glossy reports. And what's so often missed, and it sounds like that's what you're alluding to, is what does your common sense tell you? What does your gut tell you? What are you observing on the floor? Walk the floor and look at
You
your
see it right
employees
there. It's there in front of you.
if you're willing to look.
Yeah. It's very obvious if you are just willing to keep your eyes and ears and open and ask questions. Ask questions, and then, as we talked earlier, it was like, and then just be quiet. Listen. It's amazing how much trust you will build in somebody that you're talking with, or talking to, or listening to, by just asking a simple question and letting them talk. You will get more information than you ever wanted to get.
Especially if you're actually listening.
Yeah.
If you're actually present and you're there and you genuinely want to understand the answer.
Even if you're not 100% present, the little
Mm.
bits that I mean, sometimes our brain drifts. Let's face it, right? And somebody drones on and on. I'm like, I'm going to zone out too, but they're just talking for the sake of talking. But there will be tidbits, and all you need to hear is like, got a nugget. That's all I need. And then where do you go with that from there?
And again, we're back to the word intentionality
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to create optionality.
And it's about relationships.
Always,
It's always about a
always,
relationship.
always, with
And
each
they
other,
are
with
personal.
ourselves.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you could look back and talk to your like
Mm-hmm.
green Nancy self when you were first starting out, what what would you tell her if you could sit down and talk to her for a minute?
Oh, where you're starting is not where you're ending, and that's okay. Um, Plans and paths are often meant to be broken and changed. And constantly be curious, be creative. Yeah, my dad gave me this advice. He said, always be different, push the norms. And if you don't like it, change it. It's okay. It's not going to hurt you.
Oof, it's incredibly simple and
Mhm.
incredibly powerful and empowering. And as I hear you say those words, this advice from your dad, how many people, I think about how many people don't feel that they have the permission to be different, to think differently, to stand out. How many people go through life told specifically the opposite of what your father said to you? Do not.
Yeah, and life is not a straight path. I mean, I think we understand that in many ways, but until you're living it, you don't necessarily understand it. And we are teaching generations that that life is a straight path. A strategy is a straight path. It's not.
It can't be. It can't be.
Yeah.
You see, like social media short form content. It's like 3 easy steps. Follow me for five easy steps to get from here to there. No problem. Like I'll
And
show
you
you
know
how
what?
to get that.
And you are sucked in and you are sold.
Well, hopefully, I mean, again, if it's your first rodeo, maybe. And then
Yeah.
hopefully there's a little bit more critical, thinking and skepticism of really 3 easy steps. If there were 3 easy steps, we would have all figured it out.
Well, I think we all still, it's human nature to want to, live for a dream and whatever that dream is. And sometimes it changes. And like I said, that's okay. What you want today may not be what you want tomorrow. And once you have it, you may find out that's not exactly what you expected.
Mm. Seems to be the case more often than not. What we imagine, like how often we live for that one day when I get there, it will be amazing.
Yeah, it's not. It's just different. That's all.
It's different, but it's not perfect, and it's not all rosy, and it's not the end.
No,
That's
it's
not
not
it.
the yeah, yeah. The end is when you take that last breath, as far as
Right.
I'm concerned.
Yeah,
And
it's
I hope it's a good one.
hope it's a good one.
Yeah.
Right. Right. That's beautiful advice that you would have given yourself.
It was a fun ride early on, and it still is. They're changing. I get bored easily, and I think that part of our not to be philosophical, but part of our professional and our life journey is to constantly challenge ourselves in a way
Mm,
that keeps you curious, keeps you learning, and testing new things. You don't need to be an expert.
you don't.
And what is an expert? An expert is somebody, as far as I'm concerned, is really boring because they only know one little teeny tiny microcosm thing. That's it. And how sad to be so narrow channeled.
And there's so much more to know.
And you can learn so much from everything. You're an engineer, you can learn from the arts. You're a board member, you can learn from an athlete. It doesn't matter as long as you have the willingness to take little bits and pieces from different areas,
Mm.
and overlap them and color outside the lines. I know it sounds kind of trite, but it's okay.
It's almost like I'm hearing again, like giving yourself permission to know that you don't know everything.
Yeah, and I think the word permission is overrated.
What word would you use instead?
Oh gosh, no boundaries. And maybe there are some boundaries. We still need boundaries, right? Within to be ethical and moral within certain lines, but yeah, just to constantly test and challenge in a way that doesn't drive yourself totally crazy and the rest of the world. But it's okay to drive yourself nuts, just not always everybody else, right?
Not everybody else, and not every day. Then you
Yeah,
need to catch your breath
correct.
a little.
Right. Yeah, there has to be some pond that you want to swim in for a while, and then maybe that pond turns into a river and then an ocean and
Mhm.
an iceberg. I don't know.
Right. And you change course.
Yeah,
Then you change course.
yeah. And it may not be 100. It's not 100% changing course because everything you learn along the way, you take with you. Excuse me. And quite often, people don't understand that it's a layering effect.
It has to be. It's right. You're an amalgamation of all your experiences and contexts and
Mhm.
all your family trips and all of your jobs and everything that your eyes have seen and right everything
Yeah.
that you've felt. And then here you are showing up today with a LinkedIn profile or a resume. But there's always so much more to the person.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely, yeah, and so much more that you're not willing to reveal all the time,
Absolutely.
which I think is
Speaking,
important too.
it is important because we have to have, to your point of boundaries,
Mhm.
some we hold close.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm curious as we're talking about what you're sort of what we hold for ourselves and what we share with the world. I'm
Mhm.
thinking about your podcast about family tree, food, and stories.
Well, that's my 3rd
And
podcast.
that's your third. You had two other
I
podcasts.
had 2 other podcasts. I started out with Boardroom's Best,
Mhm.
which, I got into podcasting kicking and screaming with the support of a friend who I had a byline well, an editor who I had a byline with in a CEO magazine back there somewhere. And he brought in one of his consultants who was with Connecticut Public Television, said, "You need to learn to podcast." I'm like, "Why?" It gave me a mic and I was hooked.
That was it.
That was it. And podcasting was a lot of fun, but it allowed me the opportunity, or it gave me a vehicle to open up conversations in very personal ways with people who I knew and I didn't know, and extend the relationships or open up relationships in very personal ways that you would never imagine. A mic and a conversation between 2 people, the mic quickly dissolves and disappears when you connect. And that was sort of the interesting spark and the discovery point. I had a second podcast because I also took care of my parents when I was up in Connecticut. We're now down in Florida. We moved down to Florida about 4 years ago and took care of them from 1,200 miles away for about 10 years and dealt with fraud and abuse and legal, medical, financial with them. Smart, talented people, but it's very easy for somebody to become very trusting over a longer as they age and become vulnerable. And I saved them $260,000 a year, and from medical, legal, and financial abuse. Took me 3 years to unravel the financial mess that an advisor had caused for them. And thankfully, we got through that. That ended up also with a book because I thought, well, people are asking me, how do you do this while you're running your own business? And I said, well, first of all, you be honest with your clients. You can't be there for at a certain time. I always told my clients, I'm down here with mom and dad. Here's who they are. Here's their age. Just give me a few hours and I will be back to you. Everything will always be delivered when need be. And I was honest with them. And interesting to see how people opened up in those situations. But dad passed away at 99 and mom at 91. And out of that, I said, came a book called How to Survive 911 Medical Emergencies, step by step before, during, and after. We've had top medical and emergency response people read the book and say they learned something from it. So
Amazing.
that was a good outcome. I was not going to consult there. You want to know about it? Go to eldercaresuccess.live, learn. I gave you all the instructions. Go for it.
It's
And now I am building a new venture as well as still doing work with board people who want to get on boards. I have a 95% track record of getting them there if they want. I love doing that. And but I'm building a media network all around the food industry. Family Tree Food and Stories is our first one, which is very personal, and it taps into my creative nature, which is a lot of fun. It also is the personal part. We all connect more so with food, and somebody said to me one day, like, "What's the business connection?" I said, "Are you kidding? I had more deals happen as a result of sitting over a meal quietly and having a conversation with somebody. You get to
It's
know who they are. Well, you get to know
absolutely.
whether you want to do business with them.
Mm,
And you're in some cases, if like again, if you ask questions and just be quiet, keep chewing, and let them talk. I learned more inside personal stuff about some of these top leaders that I work with, and those that I didn't want to work with, uh, over a coffee, a breakfast, a lunch, a dinner, whatever it
mhm.
was. It revealed a lot about people and who they are, because you're doing something primal. You're eating, you're taking care of yourself.
It's absolutely primal.
Mhm.
And it's also intimate. And
Very
when you're
personal.
talking about your podcast, stories of family stories and emotional connection to people in their lives who may not no longer be with them anymore. You
Mhm.
learn a lot about you had an episode, I think it was in the summer, about eating bugs.
Yes.
That's very
Eating
memorable.
bugs, what dogs eat, woof, woof. We just did one that, well, it just released today on Valentine's Day, aphrodisiac foods that we may not necessarily consider to
Oh,
be as romantic as you might think, but they are.
oh,
So,
interesting.
yeah, every
Ooh,
Thursday that it releases. So
every
that's
Thursday.
every Thursday. It's a lot of fun. And as my co-host and I say, it's every meal has a story, and every story is a feast, whether it be a business meal or a personal meal. There's always one.
Beautiful and absolutely true. How much we get to learn about a person from a dish sitting next to
Have
them.
have have lunch with somebody in the boardroom. You will likely get another story from them, or even better, how they treat those on the outside while they're having lunch in the boardroom.
How do they treat the waiter? How do they treat the staff?
How do you treat the employees? Lunch is catered in.
Hmm.
It's very interesting to see what I've seen some pretty egregious behaviors.
Oh, oh yes. I think that's another episode. Um,
Oh, yeah. It just floors me of bad manners. I mean, I don't mean necessarily table manners, but just bad professional, personal manners
it's
of
stunning.
boards and boards of directors who would consider themselves above that behavior.
It's stunning. And we were
Mhm.
talking about the trickle down to the culture.
Mhm.
I had I had interviewed with a company. It was a great real estate investment trust, a great company. Had an interview with the CFO. I waited for the CFO for over an hour.
I
He
have
was
a story
late.
like that too. Yeah.
He was late by over an hour, 1 hour. And when he came out, he did not apologize for being late. He did not offer an explanation of what caused that kind of lateness. And then to put the cherry on the sundae, he snapped his fingers at his administrative assistant to bring him a bottle of water. There was a snapping. I heard the snapping
Mhm.
and I was stunned. And I declined to continue the process. And the company followed up with me and asked, well, we'd love to see you. What made you stop the process? And I was very clear.
Yeah.
So this is a leader that gave me, I had two red flags and one before I even met him, before we
Right.
even sat down to the interview, and one in the first 5 minutes of sitting down. Um, that's that's character.
I
Those
had a
are
situation
indicators.
like that too. We were asked to go to meet with the board on one of the hottest days of the year, come in early, did. They put us in a room with very little air conditioning and sun pounding through the window. Um, it was before lunch, so we got about an hour and a half before lunch, and found out that the board had had lunch, ignored us, waited. So we ended up waiting 3 hours for the board to meet with us. Saw how the individuals around the table were seated, So you saw the politics that was going on. That was and it very easy to see what was happening, what was going on in that room. And by the time we got into that room, I was so angry. There was no way on earth. We weren't even offered a bottle of water. I said, "No
Humanity,
way."
the
Yeah,
basic
no
humanity.
way on earth. To this day, I won't even buy a product from that company, period. That's how bad it was.
It's character, right? It,
Yeah.
it tells you, it yeah, gives you a memorable ick.
Yeah,
Um,
and the employee, you don't apologize. She didn't even I was having to say she didn't even apologize for bringing us in earlier. She was told what to do, and that trickles down to, yeah, the admin, and, no, I don't do business with people who behave badly.
mhm. That's great. That's a great philosophy. That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
don't go there.
No, don't. I know we're running short on time. I could have another. I could keep talking to you for hours, and feel like there's another episode that I would be dying to do of best of worst of, like
Uh,
just story hour. Super
uh,
fun.
it
Um,
happened.
and it happened. So for the folks who do behave well and want to reach you and learn how they may work with you, how would they reach you? What's the best way?
Just reach out to me on LinkedIn. You've got my LinkedIn profile. We can chat there. Please, if you reach out to me on LinkedIn and immediately ask to connect, which is fine, and then pitch, I will delete you.
Do not pitch. Who do I have? There's a friend who calls it pitch slap. Do not
Pitch
pitch
slap.
slap.
Yes, yes. It happens all too often. AI and LinkedIn are becoming a cesspool of, yeah, not great behavior.
And AI written promotions.
Yeah, even if it's not, it's just, it's the same promotion that's pushed everywhere. Oh, you're so wonderful. I've got one guy who keeps, I don't know, seeing the same pitch everywhere. Oh, yeah, I can tell, your great work that you've done with these companies. Like, what great work and what companies? Tell me so I know. Not that I don't know, but who do you know me through? What's going on and why? And what kind of conversation you want to have? So I know in advance.
So be
Make it
human
easy.
and authentic
Yeah, make it easy
and
for me.
clear.
Make it easy for me to like you, make it easy for me to delete you.
And to help you, right? To
Right.
understand.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
great. Awesome. LinkedIn, easy way to reach you. Nancy,
very
thank
easy.
you so much for joining me today. It's there's so many insights and juicy nuggets, and I'm grateful for your time
Same
and your
here.
company.
Thank you.